Andrew's relationship was already on the rocks, partly because young brothers always hate each other to a greater or lesser degree, but mostly because Andrew had got travel sick on the way to Cornwall and had vomited all over David's superhero top trumps. The Silver Surfer would from that day carry an orange stain and an unpleasant aroma of acidy chicken Kiev. After an eternity of driving from Croydon, the family had arrived at St. Ives Youth Hostel at the golden hour, when everything was washed with rose gold by the setting sun. The building was low and white and faced the sea, hugging the hillside. It was lit up with flickering strip lights which had caught harvester spiders and moths in their casings. David's dad, Colin, turned the family Vauxhall into the hostel's driveway and parked behind a high wall that shielded the building from the sea. As they opened their car doors, they could hear the distant crash of the Cornish waves. "Bring your things, lads," said David's mum, Anne. "We're here." Colin sold bathrooms for a living, but he hadn't done so well that year. He'd only managed to sell 7 bathroom suites, 3 high-flush loos and a single solitary bidet, and really you couldn't count the bidet as he'd thrown it in for free, so money was tight. A repeat of last year's swanky holiday in a 3-star hotel in Newquay was out of the question, but Anne had insisted on going somewhere, so a compromise had to be made. "What about camping?" Anne had helpfully suggested one day, imagining hot coffee and bacon rolls in the morning sunshine, as the boys played happily with other children around the tent. "What with my lumbar issues?" Colin was aghast that Anne would even contemplate for one moment him sleeping on an airbed. Just the thought of it made him wince. "For the love of God, Colin, you've got piles. I've seen them dangling in all their glory. Stop pretending that your back hurts." Anne sighed and went back to her copy of the Radio Times, circling 2:40 p.m. Shirley Valentine so hard that her pencil broke. Later that week, in a chance meeting with Sue from up the road, whose court shoes were the subject of Colin's regular lapses in concentration, Colin mentioned that he was under pressure to find a low-cost family holiday destination. Sue suggested the youth hostel at St. Ives. "I mean, not that you and Anne are youths now, but my niece said she had a smashing time there with her little ones a couple of years ago." And then, quietly, close to Colin's ear, "Of course it's not Butlins, but we can't all live like kings and queens, can we?" Colin shivered a little and looked at Sue's feet. They were shown to their family room by Tim, a bronzed young man in his 20s, wearing a shark's tooth necklace and no shoes. "Dudes, bathroom is down the corridor, although you've got your own sink here, of course." He gestured at the cracked basin as if showing off the crown jewels. "And we do serve a continental breakfast, but only between 7 and 7:15 a.m. Anne was indignant. "That's not very long." "Yes, and I like to have time to read the paper," Colin grumbled. Tim shrugged. "There are waves to catch," he explained, smiling rakishly. "Come with us if you fancy. Got a board?" Anne suddenly wished she had a board. She also wished she could swim, had packed a slightly more revealing costume, and hadn't eaten that extra Battenberg slice at the services on the A303. Meanwhile, David and Andrew were fighting over the top bunk. It was obvious to David that he, the older sibling, and therefore the superior being, should have first dibs. However, he had made the fatal mistake of not immediately claiming his territory when they walked into the room, having instead been hypnotized by the partial view of the shimmering sea from the window. By the time he turned round and had come to his senses, Andrew had climbed up the ladder and set up camp. David was not going to be outwitted by his younger brother. He edged halfway up the ladder and leaned across Andrew, grabbing him by the collar and pulling him so hard that Andrew's head hung backwards over the bed. "Get off, get off, get off! I'm falling!" shrieked upside-down Andrew, desperately clawing at his brother's face, trying in vain to gouge one or both eyes out to persuade him to loosen his grip. "You're in my bed," stated David calmly, and pulled harder. As he did so, he was aware of a ripping noise and a bit more give than there should have been in Andrew's shirt. If David had known the word shit, he would have said it. In the event, all he could